Very nice to see all of you here. Usually when I give a speech at Emerson, I don't have a script, and sometimes there's a rant that's included in those discussions, and so to spare you from that, I've tried to prepare my comments a little more diligently, and I've also noticed that things that I say and things, frankly, that I don't say show up on Twitter pretty often nowadays. So I'm going to try to be precise. The other thing I'm going to do here is, some of the things I'm going to comment on and say are things that we've got to be serious about and pay attention to and deal with. And there's plenty of challenges that we have. There is clearly a path for prosperity for our city and for our region, but we've got to take action. And we can't just sit and wait for somebody else to do it. And so hopefully that'll come out in the speech as well. It is really a pleasure and a privilege to address you today. And I really have been looking forward to this ever since Tim called me up and asked me to make comments on transforming St. Louis into a truly global city. And it really is fun to be doing it today because of everything that's going on, obviously, with the China hub activity and the landing. And what that really means and builds out. So I'm going to try to take the first step from today and project forward for all of you. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but just remind you of what is at stake, what is the path that we're going on, and what can we get from that. Now, as was indicated, I am responsible for the day-to-day global operations at Emerson and the international growth at Emerson, and I've had that role for about 10 years since I moved down here from Minnesota. Emerson sells products in about 150 countries now. Two-thirds of our sales in 2011 will be international sales outside the United States. Now, over the past 30 years, I've been able to watch our sales and operations grow overseas and really been amazed to watch the growth of the emerging markets, and in particular, the emergence of the new global cities. These cities have generated tremendous economic potential, and to watch the innovation, the initiative, the creativity, and the drive that comes out of these new cities as they embrace very significant and bold projects, and then go out and execute them properly and on time, really has put a number of these cities in the spotlight of the world. An outstanding example of this, of course, would be a city like Shanghai, which is the partner city for the initiative at the airport, and all the build-out that's happened over there. Shanghai was the first city in China that I got to visit 25 years ago, and I can tell you, if you've watched the transformation of that, it has been awesome. And I remember taking my children to Shanghai for the first time and landing at Pudong Airport. And my son was depressed, and I couldn't figure out why. And he looked at me and he said, "Dad, we need to go home and get to work." If you have seen it, you will know what can be done. If you see it, you'll know the work that we have yet to do. The culmination of the World Expo this last year in 2010 really was a celebration of a lot of hard work by the people in China to build that city. But I'm going to use that and other cities as references as I talk about what we can do here in St. Louis. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the state of the world, which is very interesting, the economy, which is even more interesting, and some of the key characteristics that I think will separate the global cities of the future from the rest. And specifically, I'll talk and make comment, obviously, about Aerotropolis, or you could call it the China Hub, or International Air Cargo, or Missouri Export, or the Lambert Project, or all these different names that I've heard as I've talked to folks in Jefferson City, and how this can generate very significant economic activity and create jobs in our St. Louis region. Now, I hope my comments are timely. And as you know, the state legislature at this very moment is nose to nose in Jefferson City with both the House and the Senate having bills that support Aerotropolis or the China hub. And both have language in their bills that would greatly support the activities that we're talking about. But neither have blinked, and there's no compromise yet as of a minute ago. Is that still true, Dick? So I'm going to talk as if they've reached agreement. Now, let's talk about the economy a bit and how the economy impacts St. Louis. The global downturn in the last couple of years has shrunk markets and made it very difficult for many unemployed to find meaningful work. Millions are jobless in the United States, and as economic uncertainty continues, it's clear that bigger and bolder steps are required to combat unemployment at the city and state level. The state of Missouri ranked third worst in terms of job loss in 2010. Our unemployment rate is the fourth highest in the country today. More than 55,000 Missourians have lost their job in the past couple of years. In the middle of this economic slump, the city of St. Louis must embrace developments that generate cost-effective jobs in order to stimulate economic activity in our region. Now, the power of cities has changed and is changing. And really, to understand the sort of projects that create long-term jobs in the region, it's very important to also understand the state of the world and what St. Louis is competing against to become a global city. In the last 2 centuries, cities have become the center of economic activity. Take a moment to think about this. Today, about 1.5 billion people living in 600 cities across the world generate over 50% of the global GDP. Or to put it another way, over 30 trillion US dollars of economic activity takes place in these 600 cities, with the top 100 cities generating 21 trillion, or 38% of the world's GDP. Today, an overwhelming number of these cities, 380 to be precise, are in the developed West. Now, fast forward 15 years to 2025, there'll be 2 billion people, or 25% of the world's population, living in the top 600 cities. They will contribute $64 trillion of economic activity, or 60% of the global GDP. Over 1 billion people living in the cities of China, India, and Brazil will create epicenters of economic activity that are mainly driven by the very positive rise of the middle class, generating phenomenal economic growth. The center of gravity of all this activity will shift south and especially east during this time frame. Over 1/3 of the 380 cities from the developed world will be marginalized. And 136 new cities will enter the picture, overwhelmingly from emerging markets. Here's the point. And some people may wish it weren't so. I've had this debate with my mother 100 times. Emerging markets are here to stay. The competition for St. Louis to be truly global is no longer going to be limited to our neighboring cities in Indiana or Illinois or Michigan, nor is it going to be limited to the megacities of the world, such as Shanghai or Dubai or Hong Kong. They're going to come from a growing class of middleweight cities that aspire to become the new megacities. Now, 12 of the 13 cities in the next 15 years that will become megacities will come from the emerging markets. The one exception, interestingly enough, that will transform to a megacity on our continent will be Chicago. Now, it's all of our choice if we're going to participate in this environment, if we're going to do things to be competitive in this environment, if we're going to make investments in this environment. The investments we choose to make today will make all the difference in the world in the future. Now, there's some characteristics of a truly global city that we've got to keep in front of ourselves. And St. Louis has to be prepared to compete in this environment. Our ability to become a truly global player depends on our ability to grow. The catalyst for growth is the ability to innovate and solve complex problems. Innovation, in turn, is driven by people who flow to cities that are vibrant and global, and that cycle continues. In my opinion, there's three characteristics we've got to watch that differentiate cities that will be able to continue to compete in that top 600 versus the cities that will drop out over the next 15 years. First, vigorous business activity. Second, political engagement and nimbleness. Third, the ability to attract and retain human talent. First, let me talk about the business activity. And human history is littered with examples of global cities forming around vibrant economic activity, ranging from the capital markets in New York and Frankfurt, the ports of Singapore and Rotterdam, technology hotbed in Silicon Valley. The second activity, and one that I must say that I really didn't have as good an appreciation for as maybe I should have until I got involved with the China Hub activity here in Missouri. This is really vital. The second activity is political engagement. Local governments develop policies and actively attract new business to keep their communities relevant and to spur dialogue to increase the standard of living of all its citizens. Already energetic centers of economic activity attract even more talent, which spurs the pace of the ascent of the city. Thirdly, the availability and the quality of people and the infrastructure to enable the functioning of business is key. Institutions with global presence and trade capability are attracted to places with the right people and infrastructure necessary to drive economic growth. Within this, education at all levels is paramount. For us, that means Washington University, St. Louis University, Webster University, my favorite, Rankin Technical College. It means the quality of our high schools, the quality of our grade schools, the quality of our private schools, the quality of our public schools. To attract investment requires the best educated people. Now let's look more closely at St. Louis and our opportunity and how we can take advantage of this and transform our city into the global city of the future. As has been pointed out by others today, the history of St. Louis has always been associated with transportation and its access to the West. The intersection of three of North America's most important rivers made St. Louis an important gateway in the 18th century. In the same vein, a railroad hub was established in a small town in Illinois, which led to the creation of the economic powerhouse in Chicago. Now, as highways and ports have determined the winners in the 20th century, airports will drive the pace of development of the 21st century. The St. Louis Aerotropolis project is one great opportunity for our region. It is very important to realize that airports are no longer just passenger transportation hubs, but have evolved into tight supply chain centers and commercial centers. They meet the needs of customers and businesses alike by generating a tremendous amount of economic activity in the region. The flat world architecture of the 21st century has meant that business is all about proximity and speed to customers. Airports constitute the physical internet of this new world. The idea is for St. Louis to leverage the uncongested Lambert Airport and its reach into the U.S. as an airport for import, export, and distribution of goods to and from different regions of the world. Currently, all the airline companies in the developed world have already chosen their hub locations. And all of those hub locations, unfortunately, are outside of Missouri. We now have the opportunity to attract, as has been discussed and led by many hard-working people here, Chinese companies to St. Louis. This project will generate long-term, permanent jobs for many St. Louisans and increase the economic activity in our region. For a second, just think about the economic partner in this opportunity. China is the fastest growing economic powerhouse and is looking to expand its share of global freight air traffic. Their current market share is 12%. That means 12% of the air freight that goes from China to the United States is carried on Chinese airplanes. Their stated goal is to move to a 50% market share of goods from China already produced, carried by others, but they want to carry it on Chinese planes and bring it to their hub. They have earmarked $250 billion of investment to make this happen. This is a country that bucked the global recession in 2008 and 2009 and continues to grow. After 3 years of outreach by many here and awarded earlier, China is seriously looking at St. Louis as a place for this hub. But even to this moment, we still have significant competition from other cities in the Midwest that see this as an opportunity to prosper as well. Now, this is just the beginning. Once the gateway is created, it's only a matter of time before economic engines of the world like Latin America, Africa, and India start using St. Louis. So there's plenty of growth opportunity. Now, let me just look at a couple examples because I've seen some of the criticism about pie in the sky and other things, and let me just go through a couple things with you. And a couple examples and talk about the standard of living and the economic activity that has been generated. If we look at some similar projects that have already been executed in communities, first, let's look at Memphis. Memphis International Airport, home and hub and world headquarters to FedEx. It has created 220,000 jobs, $28.6 billion of economic activity in the metropolitan area. Over 209,000 jobs are related directly to the airport and to cargo. 1 in every 4 jobs created in Memphis is connected to the airport. More ancillary jobs have been created in Memphis as the demand for time-sensitive manufacturing and distribution has grown around the airport in the last few years. Speed to customer and hence proximity to air cargo has never been more important. Now, the painful reality is, as many of you know, FedEx's first choice was St. Louis. And after we said no, they went to Memphis. Another example is the Louisville Airport, world hub for UPS. Generated more than 55,000 jobs, $2 billion in payroll, over $250 million in state and local taxes. Very similar economics. And here's where it gets very interesting. UPS has managed to lure a bunch of other retailers, tech repair geeks, sorry for that, banks, orthopedic surgeons, and others right next to the hub. Today, whether your laptop needs something overnight or you need to replace your MasterCard, UPS can deliver it because the customers have located close to the hub. The value proposition for these companies that have moved to Louisville have everything to do with the complex supply chain surrounding the Louisville Airport. Similar activities resulted in 400,000 jobs within a 5-mile radius of Dallas Airport, Dallas Airport, 500,000 jobs at Chicago O'Hare, 200,000 jobs around Washington Dulles. And very interesting, at O'Hare in Chicago, and I was with the Chinese at dinner last night, bashing Chicago at every opportunity. The airport employs more people than downtown Chicago. St. Louis here has a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right here, right now. St. Louis is uniquely positioned to take advantage of an end game that would be an integrated airport region generating billions of dollars of economic activity in clusters of warehouses, logistics, hotels, and offices. St. Louis has a very good value proposition that differentiates it from other cities such as Chicago. Consider this fact. The airspeed of most cargo planes is almost the same. The speed in air freight is not the airplane. The speed is determined for the cargo by the first and last mile of the journey. For us, we've got statistics, the 3 miles going into O'Hare and the 3 miles coming out of O'Hare. When our goods are on trucks, they spend more time on the trucks in those last 3 miles in and out than the flight from Chicago to Shanghai. With the river terminals and highways around our airport, St. Louis is an attractive opportunity, especially compared to other congested cities. We would also expect Aerotropolis to increase and generate more economic activity based on transportation, meaning rail, land, trucks, and water. This project, with 7 different economic studies that I've read, I've heard that there are 9, and I haven't read the other 2, but of the 7 studies I've read, will generate 11,000 construction jobs plus 7,000 spin-off jobs in 8 Missouri counties around Lambert. More than 11,000 full-time operations jobs will be created in the process. The studies show that there's $17 billion of new economic activity that would take place over the next 15 years. And this does not take into account the other potential revenue streams that Missouri may attract when countries other than China decide to follow suit. Now, China will go where its opportunity is the greatest. We need to help them by providing the necessary infrastructure environment for air freight and make Lambert a globally cost-effective solution. For this to happen, we have to provide 2 sets of incentives. One is for the domestic freight forwarders. Those are the U.S. companies that a company like Emerson works with. We work with a freight forwarder, and they take the freight to the airplane. For them to bring freight to St. Louis is very important. The Chinese will go where they can find the backhaul. The Chinese will go where they can get freight to put on their planes to fly back to China. The planes coming from China to here already are full. That backhaul is very important, and the key player in that are the domestic freight forwarders. We've got to get them to be willing to commit to St. Louis, especially while the hub is being established. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the leverage. Initially, it will cost them more to move the freight to St. Louis than to another city. The other is for warehousing, cold chain, and distribution facilities to lure exporters to our region. The incentive for freight forwarders will act as a discount on the cost of shipping freight out of Lambert. Once the hub is established, economies of scale will take over, and the need for these incentives will diminish and then vanish. For warehousing, the incentives need to be performance-based tax credits for the facilities, provided a certain percentage of the activities related to the international cargo traffic, number of jobs created, the amount of capital invested. These will incentivize exporters as well as foreign direct investment into St. Louis, generating further economic activities. So, in conclusion, and I will get off my soapbox, thank you for absorbing that. But as you can see, I'm excited, I'm passionate about this opportunity. Frankly, for all of us here, this is our home. This is a terrific opportunity for the state to engage more broadly and deeply in world trade, to provide jobs for the region and the state, and to increase revenue. But we must act decisively to make this happen now and embark on a journey to remain competitive and relevant to the world stage. We believe that this project will not only create sustainable jobs, but also make Lambert a more competitive market for cargo and passenger services as well. We can start to create a new global trade flow through St. Louis, first from China, then from other economic engines of Africa, Asia, South America. The region's entire economy will receive a boost from this project. But the choice is ours. We can continue as we are, or we can grab a chance to re-engage the world with this bold global import-export project. The weakness of an underutilized airport has become a potential strength. The excess capacity, along with the availability of land surrounding Lambert, our central location, our rail, our water, our highway assets, in particular, have made us attractive to the world's fastest growing customer, China. That customer actually is having lunch in this hotel right around the corner, is already shipping, and it is shopping. Let's keep them here in St. Louis. Let's make this happen. Today is by far a terrific culmination of a lot of hard work, but it is the first step. And God willing, our legislature today will seize that opportunity. Thank you very much.